a proper education on, how actually, how expensive launching a brand is or keeping a brand is. Like launching is easier, keeping a brand is, very
One of
expensive.
the things you brought up was, AI is not going to solve things. You need to lay that foundation, and then AI can then help, especially on the inventory side of things. It can get calculations, but when it comes,
I think the most important thing that you talked about is the cash flow, because a lot of us have heard about it, but we don't truly understand it. And it
ourselves
is,
internet marketers, because a lot of what we did, you send stuff to Amazon, and then it's, can I market my product to make it sell versus, my competitors.
it's very hard. Obviously, if you are running a deal, it actually gets harder. It
Yeah.
So I have been through the times when, we were running a deal and Amazon didn't account for it, and I was like,
I
so
think educating yourself on the broad data, and then having the ability to parse that data, understanding, the strategies involved, really learning the
what
strategy.
do you think? Like we already talked about, leverage and stuff like that. What's the most important thing you think e-commerce sellers need to keep in mind nowadays?
A business can look profitable, but then all of a sudden you get slammed with huge storage fees. Q4 comes in,
Yeah.
you've got aged inventory. That's
But out in 2022, that was really good times. Because after 23 and 24, Amazon has been slapping on some, very ridiculous things.
Yeah.
I think
regardless of generating more revenue, if you made an extra 2%, 3% on every single sale that you made on your top sellers, you're going to have more cash flow. You're going to have more money to invest in other.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. How was your Prime Day? Yeah, this is a question that I ask everyone after the Prime Day. So
Yeah, absolutely. So because we're in software and not specifically selling on Amazon at this point, it's just all
I
about
understand.
all about supporting, and sharing tips and things like that for how to keep stocked on Prime Day.
Yep. So the reason I asked this is because my friend works with a French bank, and during Prime Day, he says, even our servers load up because people are buying so much that the transactions almost get three times than normal. So yeah, that was the reason I asked, because you see. If you have overall stock information on how many clients have the stock, and you see it just dropping down. So
yeah, one of the things I think is important to understand is when Prime Day is happening, it's important to monitor that and to keep in stock because of what can happen afterwards. So most people project what they're going to need for Prime Day and get excited about the sales, but then they end up running out of stock. They spend a lot and lose profitability. They could control a little bit better, maybe increase their price slowly if it doesn't affect certain deals, or if it's done afterwards, because there is that lift that happens. Being very diligent about following the impact on inventory to increase your price or to lower your bids, things like that. You actually make more make more profit for every sale, and then you avoid running out of stock. So I think that's part of a strategy definitely that we recommend to the clients that we work with, is controlling your sales and increasing your profit when you need to slow down your sales versus making as many sales as possible and then running out of stock.
You're right, because last 2 years, like 2 years, 2023 and 2024, we were very excited about Prime Day. So whenever it came, we were like fully stocked and running deals up live, left, right, and center. And then what started happening was after Prime Day, first we were out of stock, and so we couldn't sell for like 1 month, because obviously inventory takes time, and then AWD takes time, and then Amazon slows down as well. If you have done that, especially in the recent months, it's just very complicated now. So after that you don't have any profitability, and then you're out of stock, so you have to rebuild everything. So it's actually better to stay in stock and maybe not run any deals, because one of my clients that I recently I got them in June, and they were very excited about Prime Day, and I was like, we cannot do the Prime Day because we don't have anything.
Mm.
They actually had under 100 units, and they were like excited. I was like, this
Yeah.
is recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to really plan for that, and learn how to balance not having enough stock versus not having too much stock, and really control the flow of sales.
Yeah, and the more I think about inventory and these stuff, the more I realize that that is the major and crucial part of running any business, especially in the e-commerce side,
Yeah.
because having like for the same client that I'm talking about, I don't know how much backbiting it is, but yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, so they had some inventory that was over 365 days old. So
Mm-hmm.
Amazon was going to charge them for it, and I was like, we need to get rid of it. So we ran some deals on it, and got rid of some of that inventory. But
Yeah.
yeah, at the same time, it's a very mathematical thing to understand the inventory side, because the more I go into it, the more I read about it. It just starts getting more complex every
Mhm.
time I read it.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten a lot more complicated with the fees. And I like to say that, it's the most expensive mistake that you'll make. It's the hardest to turn that ship. It's, you need to be on top of it, because those fees definitely can add up. So
Yep.
that's where profitability comes into place. And sometimes, a business can look profitable, but then all of a sudden you get slammed with huge storage fees. Q4 comes in,
Yeah.
you've got aged inventory, that stacks up. And the strategy that you mentioned is one of those things that we encourage people to use, those deals and those heavy sales days, Prime Day, Black Friday, to sell through inventory that is old, to really use that as an opportunity to get rid of some of that stock. You get some of that cash back, even if you are not profiting as much as you were, you would. You get that stock back, or you get through the stock, you sell through, get some of the cash back, and avoid those fees. So you have additional cash flow, not just from the side of revenue, but also the side of fee avoidance.
Yeah, so I was also looking at the inventory-minded marketing. I think that refers to that. So yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
because
balancing that communication between the marketing team and the inventory team, so that marketing can not just be focused on revenue, but how to increase profitability by avoiding those what we call margin drags, or profit killers that come from the storage side of things.
Uh, but I have a very different question going into a very different direction. That is, what do you prefer more, running the software-based things or running the Amazon seller account?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we ran our software business, or our Amazon business. That's where we started out, 2014. We ran it up to about 2022, beginning of 2022. And really, my big passion is in helping entrepreneurs. So, we've even running our business, we've done, coaching programs. I had a copywriting agency, and really it's been very fulfilling to work with other entrepreneurs, to know that we have made an impact on, individuals who, maybe they can quit their job, maybe they can spend more time with family, work for themselves. I know the flexibility that we have in being entrepreneurs has been really a huge gift. So being able to help people to better manage their business, and ultimately inventory has been a means to an end, and that end has always been helping people to get their time back, and also be more profitable and have more cash to scale their business. So I very much enjoy the purpose that we have, but also the work. I love, I work in product. I do a lot of the development, and being able to sit down and say, here's a problem that's not being solved. First it was inventory. Now we're about to launch a profit forecasting tool, and
Awesome.
being able to say, here's a problem that's not being solved or not being solved well enough. And we see the negative impact that it's causing in the community. How can we solve this problem? Obviously there's a lot of moving parts, but it's really exciting to me to be able to sit down and say, here's a challenge. And, how do we put the pieces together to solve this challenge?
Yeah, that makes sense. So the first part of your answer, you got out in 2022. That was really good times. Because after 23 and 24, Amazon has been slapping on some, very ridiculous things.
Yeah.
I think their new update is that prep, they're stopping the prep or something like that.
Yep.
So yeah, I didn't fully understand it, but I think something is happening. So can you explain it to me, like for a person for an advertising guy, can you dumb it down for me? Yeah.
Yeah. So Amazon has always had a service where you've got products that come in, and some people don't put the stickers on the individual products. They'll have, they'll report to Amazon, in this box is these different products, but they don't put the FNSKU on the product. Oh. And so Amazon puts the FNSKU, or they send product and they don't put it in a poly bag or, something. So they do that prep, and they've been doing it since, pretty much the beginning. You had a lot of people selling products that it took a while for it to become the professional business that it has evolved into. So Amazon has decided, starting January 1st, they're not going to do any of that. Most people are doing it when they're sending inventory from, suppliers in other countries, that sort of thing. But there is a side of the business, and mostly it is on the side of resellers, arbitrage and wholesale, where a distributor will send the inventory straight to Amazon, and they're not putting stickers on it. So what are they to do now? They have to incur that extra cost of sending it to through PL. That's extra shipping, and then it's usually more expensive, or it can be more expensive to do the labeling there versus doing the labeling at Amazon. Got a whole set of people just now, they have their whole entire supply chain and their margins are being affected starting January 1st.
Yeah, that makes actually sense as well. And also about the profit sheet, I have been, I think I've lost count of how many times a day I get that message, because to get actually down to the correct, cent, it's very hard. Obviously, if you are running a deal, it actually gets harder.
Yeah.
So I have been through the times when, we were running a deal and Amazon didn't account for it. And, I was like so happy that, we have made some good profit. And then, after the deal price, I was like, oh.
It comes through. Yeah. The structure of the deals changed earlier this year, and it helps people to test more deals. But then at a certain point, it gets very expensive, just the way, and we actually have something on the Carbon 6 website that allows you to it's a calculator, a promo calculator that will calculate the impact of the deals. What if I sell this many units, how much is it going to cost me? If I sell that many units, and so that's on Carbon 6 under the resources tab. One of those things, because it can get exciting, but then, like you said, the costs come through, the charge comes through later on, and you go, okay, this is how much I sold, and I thought my profit was this, but then I got to subtract this. And so if you don't plan in advance, you're going to be surprised like that.
Yeah, I've been surprised too many times. So but yeah, it's like a love-hate relationship with Amazon, because the more the deeper you get into it, you're like, you can make actually really good amount of money, but then the question is, how much actually is coming into your pocket. So I think the profit calculator is going to be a great addition. Inventory management is a really great addition, so stock, because yeah, because it is very complicated. Like I've been going through it for some of my clients, and it actually makes me, yeah, sometimes I would like not to think about it at all. So supply chain is a very complicated business in itself as well.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you love helping, other people and other entrepreneurs and stuff like that. I was talking to my friend yesterday, and we were actually saying that that's the beauty of a business, is that it allows you to follow your passion.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a even if you are running a successful, even an ice cream stand, if you're running an ice cream stand successfully, it will give you enough time or enough thought process to truly start enjoying something else that you do. For example, you started Amazon in 2014, and it actually gave you enough motivation to start this, and then it's a
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very powerful thing as well.
Yeah.
So yep.
Agreed. Yeah. You can have, and I always felt like it was a stepping stone to something else. And you see people who, most people or many people in our industry who are not, directly selling on Amazon anymore. A lot of people started that way and found, that they gravitated towards something else and they had passion in another direction. But that's the beauty of where we work and what we do, is being able to find a place in the community, even if it was not directly selling on Amazon. You can still add that value and be immersed in the community.
Yeah, that makes sense as well. And also, uh, with so the other thing that I want to talk about is the AI. So has AI been any help to you guys,
Mhm.
since you guys do so much software?
Right. So it's been very helpful in, for me personally, obviously, in development, it with the engineers, it's helpful for them to, double check things and that sort of thing. For me on the product side, and also I work in product and I also work in marketing. Part of my background is in copywriting, that side of things, messaging. So in terms of messaging, it's been helpful to take my thoughts and build a foundation. Say I'm writing for this. This is, these are the basic bullet points, or this is what I'm trying to communicate. Give me the foundation for something, and then I can. It's an easier starting point than starting from scratch. So on the marketing side, it's helpful for that, being able to flesh out talking points and that sort of thing. And then on the product side, it's been really good to help me with formulas, things like that.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. Formula, yeah,
Excel spreadsheets, I'm like, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm adequate at Excel. And but to a point. And then I'll say, hey, the formula will give me an error. And I'll, say fix, and I'll give the formula,
yeah,
fix, oh, you forgot a comma, something like that. So
yeah.
instead of troubleshooting
I
through.
have seen inventory management formulas, and yeah, it's just
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's not going to replace things. One of the acquisitions for Carbon 6 was Junglelytics. And so, I spoke to Nico's one of the co-founders, and he is very well versed in AI. I mean, Junglelytics is, heavily uses AI. And one of the things he brought up was, AI is not going to solve things. You need to lay that foundation, and then AI can then help, especially on the inventory side of things. It can get calculations, but when it comes to forecasting, we do a timeline. So it's not just what's my next order, it's what are the next orders and transfers from different marketplaces to, when I have a 3PL and I have, AWD for the next year. So that's
yeah,
the complexity, and it's only able to get to, a certain point. It can't project that long amount of time. So helping to build the foundation for the formulas and the Excel spreadsheets to send to our engineering team. That's how it helps, but we can't feed into AI.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Even for me, the help I am getting from is for me the big worst thing is, although I've been a copywriter as well, when it comes to running YouTube ads or running the meta ads, and I have to write five descriptions and
Yeah.
five product lines, and they are like, give us more," and
Yeah.
I'm like, my brain is not braining, so I
Yeah.
go to ChatGPT and it actually gives out good answers, and you
Yeah.
can put them there.
It's a
What's
huge
the
time saver for that.
Yeah,
It helps you to, even though, a lot of that creative side needs to be supported by an actual person, it really
yeah.
cuts down a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah, but on the other hand, what's the like? What I hate is when it starts putting emojis in everything. Like I'm like I'm too old for this emoji thing. Can you
Yeah.
just?
Yeah. You got to
But other
ask,
than that,
like, no emojis, please. Yeah.
yeah. But other than that, it's a really good tool. But what I have recently started doing in my strategies, like whenever I'm thinking about a strategy, I just double check it with ChatGPT, and usually it confirms it. Or sometimes if it has like, what I do is, I would like write it up that I'm trying to do retargeting on this one, but I think there might be some problems in it. Can you explain the problems that might arise from it? And then it's like, okay, these might be the problems that can come from it, and you're like, okay, let me just recheck if
Yeah.
these things
Absolutely.
are working or not. So that kind of thing is really helpful. Also for the coders, like what I have seen is you can actually understand code pretty fast. You can actually copy paste it, but
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
real hardcore coders, they don't let a human touch their code. How would they let a AI touch their code? But at the same time, it's really helpful for everyone. So I
Mhm.
think it's like a tool in your tool set that can be used, and that's really helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a game changer for sure.
yeah. So can you tell me like what would be the next step in your like I got the profitability calculator. What are your thoughts for the next 5 years or the next 2 years?
Yeah. So the way that I look at the industry, obviously, I've been in for about, yeah, this month would be 11 years. So I've
Awesome.
seen, yeah, a lot of changes. And we've been, we originally started by calling ourselves internet marketers because a lot of what we did, you send stuff to Amazon and then it's, can I market my product to make it sell versus, my competitors.
Yeah,
So, and it still is, most of it lives in the marketing and advertising side of things. You look at webinars, things like that, it's always about, the marketing hacks and generating more revenue. And the problem that I had in 2017, 2018 was inventory. So we had to kind of grow up into inventory, and 2020 happened and the supply chains changed. You got restock limits, you got all of this stuff that was changing, and the industry now had to grow up into inventory. So there's this progression, a long time into marketing, being forced into really getting, good at inventory. And then I foresaw finance and profit being the next piece in the cycle. So it's kind of, the industry is growing up. And I started talking about the profit side of things about 4 years ago. And I
awesome.
saw that to be the next issue. And so then we got all these fees. We got, the supply chain got more expensive. We got all these fees passed in 22, 23. Uh, and so that's where I see the next piece going is, if you're going to have sellers are going to get more professional. Some of the guys who don't really understand it are going to be bleeding off. And you really have to get a hold of your margins and your cash flow, and education around that and tools around that are going to be the next phase of the industry, in my opinion. And then AI, of course, AI
Yeah,
profit, those are the two big pillars of, uh, the next phase, I think.
I think the most important thing that you talked about is the cash flow,
Yeah.
because a lot of us have heard about it, but we don't truly understand it,
Yeah.
and it is a real killer. Like, to be very honest, I have seen really big brands, really big aggregators dying
Mhm.
because of cash flow.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. And cash flow, obviously, cash flow, it's it's a challenge, but it's something that people, they look to funding, getting funding, or they don't launch products, they don't know how to scale. And cash flow and profit go hand in hand. So increasing your margins, finding, and that's what the next of our the next launch, which is coming, the the profit side of things, you know, regardless of generating more revenue, if you made an extra 2%, 3% on every single sale that you made on your top sellers, you're going to have more cash flow. You're going
yeah,
to have
yep,
more money to invest in other things. And that's how you
yep,
scale new products. And then the other element that should be leveraged, if you want more profit, one of the tools is to negotiate with your suppliers. But sometimes for cash flow, it actually makes more sense to first negotiate terms. Maybe you're at
yeah.
net 60, try to go for net 90. That's going to help your cash flow. And you're going to be able to, smaller orders more frequently. You're putting out less cash. You're getting your cash, you're turning your cash faster. And that will be a strategy that will help you to generate more cash flow to be able to scale.
Yeah, then that's correct, because I've seen really good brands die off because of it, and it's really important. And also profit is part of it. Like I said, for 2 years we have been, because we could do it like bleed off. We
Mm-hmm.
did it for 2 years, and now we realize that we cannot, because we have tighter cash flow now.
Yeah.
So we understand that now is not the time to do it, and we have been very responsible for with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, at the same time, you're right that it needs to be studied, and it's need more education. To be very honest, I think uh, anyone who does the course or launches a course needs to give them a proper education on how actually how expensive launching a brand is, or keeping a
Mhm.
brand is. Like,
Yeah.
launching is easier, keeping a brand is very expensive. It gets yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Continuing to fund understanding, and then looking at, your the inventory value. You're carrying a lot of tied up cash. You have, it works on both sides, because the marketing team needs to be coordinated, where they can look at, okay, these products didn't work,
yeah,
and they're actually liabilities. They, on paper, they look like assets, but they're actually liabilities, because you've got that cash that's tied up that could be launching other products. And it's this ticking time bomb of, all of a sudden, you're, aged inventory fees, you're collecting fees every month. So not just a revenue and bestseller strategy, but a slow seller and aged inventory strategy to avoid those fees and get that cash back, because you're bleeding on either side. Your cash is stuck, and you're collecting fees on it.
yeah, that actually makes sense. And so I do have a. I'm gonna switch gears and ask a very different question, very just to lighten up the mood. And that is, if you would, live anywhere in the world without
Mhm.
any, anything, where
Yeah.
would you be? Yeah.
That's a good question. I would move. I want to eventually live in Italy.
Oh,
It's,
nice, nice, nice.
yeah. I've been twice. Uh, Beyond just that, I love the country and the culture. Living in Europe allows you to travel to a lot of different places.
Yeah,
Living, really anywhere. I mean, living in Europe and Africa, those types of things. I've never been to Africa, but um, living in another country, the culture changes so much, I think, in such a short period of time. You can
yeah,
drive, in one day, and be in a completely different culture, which is not the same as, in the
yeah,
US. There are subtle
yeah.
differences
That's it.
in the US, but not much.
Yeah, Italy makes a lot of sense as well. And I'm in Portugal, so my friend is has a flight to Malaysia.
Mhm.
So he decided not to take it from here. He's gonna take it from Spain. So
Mm.
he's gonna go to another country. Like technically, it's another country, so he's gonna go to another country and take the flight
Yeah.
from there, which is exciting and which is really nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, these borderless things and they're really nice. So yeah, I do understand, and also yeah, I'm friends with a lot of Italians, so I do understand that their culture is very very rich as well. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? Where would you live?
So my question was very narrow. So my question was like, would you like to live in the mountains or nearby the beach and stuff like that? So
Gotcha.
in my brain, like I think this is every male's thing where they would like to go into the cabin in the woods. That's a
Yeah.
male thing, and
Yeah.
I'm get like maybe as I'm aging, I'm getting into that more. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really getting like I should have a horse there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Daydreaming about things.
Closer to nature. Yeah.
But my only problem is that I need internet for because I have like I love also helping out the clients, and I really like seeing them get results. So what eventually happens is that I don't want to lose access to the internet, and
Yeah.
this cabin in the woods needs to be really on the highway.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta have close enough to civilization, but
Yeah.
far enough where you can feel that space and that I wouldn't say isolation necessarily
Yeah,
because
yeah,
there's
yeah.
a reason for it, but
And I've also noticed that I cannot live alone. Like I've tried living alone, but that's not my thing. So I like to be accompanied with even if I don't hear a person say anything. That's why I go to cafes and stuff, so I can actually hear people talk and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
yeah, cabin in the woods is very far.
Yeah, you can
far
always
from
have
reality.
I always like the idea of having like a city location and then a place on the
Yeah.
lake or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, switching gears back into the e-commerce, what do you think? Like we already talked about, leverage and stuff like that. What's the most important thing you think e-commerce sellers need to keep in mind nowadays?
Yeah, I do think that profit, and I say it, over and over again, but I do think that profit and really understanding your numbers, and not just understanding your numbers. We in building the profit tool, we're calling it profit flow. One of the stages we want is to be able to project cash flow. But in building it out, we brought it to beta. Of course, you want to test it out. And when we brought it to beta, I realized that I think differently, and I can look at a set of numbers and I can see, and it's different. Like PPC is not my thing, looking at those numbers to me is the way that I feel like I see, others see the numbers for finance. So I launched to the beta and I said, look at all this, like all the data, we've been able to process it and organize it in such a way that you can, extrapolate data and make decisions. But I realized when we were going through, we had to take it a step further and, a few steps further and be able to, the end result is, what do I do with this data?
Yeah,
So building in strategies. So that's the area that we went into is, we take all the data, we explain it to you, but ultimately you just want to know, based on this data and based on my business, I want to make settings of, my landed cost shouldn't be more than 30% of my entire,
yeah,
retail price. Well, we can flag things and say, the landed cost is over your target. And so strategies and recommendations really is what needs to happen, is understanding that side of things and actually being able to take action on those things. So I think educating yourself on the broad data and then having the ability to parse that data, understanding, the strategies involved, really learning the strategies of how to be profitable, how to control cash flow, and having a basic understanding. Like you said, people need to start being educated on that. So I think that that's important. You can make as many sales as possible. If you're doing 2 million on Amazon, but you're only keeping, a very small fraction of that, you're not going to sustain and you're not going to scale. And eventually tariffs are going to hit or something's going to happen where all of a sudden you have a business that is not producing any income.
yeah.
any profit.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I have seen it a lot. Like for some of the Amazon sellers, like I'm data guy as well, so I used to present all this data was NTV and stuff like that, and so many data points. I actually created a Looker Studio report with so many data points, and in
Yeah.
the end, his the client's question was, okay, so what do I do with this data? And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so let me explain,
Yeah.
let me send you a sentence that can actually help you out. So yeah.
Yeah. What does this mean? You're like, oh, well, it's clear. It's clear to you. But ultimately, here's the data. But the real question is, what do I do with this? What is the action that needs to be
Yeah,
taken?
actionable items. Yeah,
At
yeah,
the
that
end of the
makes a
day.
lot of.
Yeah. Mhm.
So uh, what's the most important profitability point? One is doing net 60 90 with the manufacturer or supplier,
Yeah.
and then I think second would be the shipping, or would it be the advertising?
Yeah. I mean, advertising is something that you can, change quickly.
Yeah,
Something is, you got the negative keywords, or you've got, certain things that are, bleeding. You want to get rid of that waste. Shipping is the thing that people overlook. You've got something called contribution margins, and that looks at, okay, after my landed cost, how much profit do I have? After Amazon fees, how much profit? And what I found was, when you look at it only from that perspective, say you've got really good landed cost, and then you've got really high tacos, and your tacos being very high, when you look at your business that way, you can hide opportunities. You can say, oh, well, my profit margin is good. Well, if your advertising is bad, but your landed
yeah,
cost is good, you can hide overspending. So
yeah,
breaking it down, we actually look at what percentage of my revenue, or what percentage of my price per ASIN is over the target. We call it cost share. What percentage? So maybe
nice.
I have a product that is, within range, 21%. You go, that's great. 21%. That's a decent profit margin. But when you break it down, you see ad spend is higher. Yeah, my best seller, if I can get it down by 2%, that could be, tens of thousands of dollars a year.
Yeah.
And, so I think that was something that we discovered is not being looked at in the industry right now, and on a margin, or on an ASIN level.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. So I think we have reached the time of the podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. Really means a lot. Do you have any closing remarks for the audience?
I guess it's, really about understanding, finding ways to, you have the term future proof your business. It's not
Yeah,
about, a lot of the business is looking at what happened yesterday, last week, last month. And it's like you're driving in the rearview mirror. You're not looking at what's coming, and you can end up driving into a brick wall. And most of it is in the form of storage fees, and in the form of just not being able to weather those storms. This specific bestseller, someone comes in, the market changes, the economy changes, the tariffs change, all of those things are, you're like, great, we're profitable, but you're not profitable enough to weather those storms. You're not looking,
yeah,
okay, based on our forecast, we're going to hit $25,000 in storage fees in Q4. So it is really starting to look at driving with intention, driving forward with that forward-looking view, not just looking at your current
yeah,
and
that makes sense. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense that you can future proof your business, and yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really, really, it was a learning session for me as well. So really,
Cool.
thank you.
Yeah.
And as soon as your profit tools comes out, I would love to test it out. So and see, how it goes. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. I really enjoyed the conversation. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Take
Yeah.
care. Bye.